We are Legally Sis. Welcome to our podcast.
The information provided in the show is for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. No attorney-client relationship is created between you and Duran Duran-Schulze Law.
Hi, this is Legally Sis. I'm Attorney Wen.
And I'm Attorney March. Welcome to our podcast. In our previous episode, we've discussed about petition for nullity. And we've stopped with that and said that we will be discussing two other types of separation or legal separation with your spouse. So there are two hanging topics. These are the legal separation and annulment. So, Attorney Wendy, what is the difference between annulment and a petition for nullity? Can you refresh our memory?
Okay, petition for annulment is that the solution of the marriage for marriages that are valid at the beginning but you want it to be void. On the other hand, petition for nullity of marriage is those marriages that are void already in the beginning.
So, how is this different from divorce?
Well, in the Philippines, actually, we do not have a divorce yet, but the house is already approved. So, let's see.
And with legal separation?
For legal separation, this is a separation of the spouses from bed and board, but they're still considered as married.
Okay, let's still dive down to the grounds to annul a marriage.
Okay, for annulment of marriage, there are actually 6 grounds. So, one is that there are no parental consent between the spouses who are between 18 years old and until 21 years old. So, you have to have a parental consent if you are at that age when you are getting married.
As a practicing attorney, can you give us examples of those situations where parties have decided to file for an annulment?
Well, considering that there are a lot of grounds, so aside from the one that I've mentioned, that the parties between 18 years old to 21 who has no parental consent, so there is a fraudulent consent wherein the parties or either of the parties did not disclose any material facts at the time of the marriage, just as the wife is pregnant with another man. So
Okay.
that's one. And then another one is that the consent has been obtained through force, intimidation, or undue influence. This is like yung shotgun marriage pa, yung tinatawag.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's also the physical inability to consummate marriage.
Attorney, I have a few questions to enlighten our readers.
Go
So,
ahead.
what if a person is abroad and wants to file an annulment? Is it possible? Will the case pursue even if that person is working abroad?
So, in the recent months, especially because of the pandemic that happened, so the Supreme Court has adopted some policies with respect to filing of cases whenever the petitioner is abroad. So, the Supreme Court has allowed the use of video conferencing for the hearing. So, this could be done within the Philippine embassy or the consulate because it's also an extension of the Philippine soil.
Isn't that hard, especially with the difference in time zones?
Actually, yes, that could be considered as a difficulty. I've encountered a case
Multiple.
like that, yes, because of the different time zones. So either of the parties will have to adjust.
How about the fees in the consulate? Do they charge a lot?
Not really a lot, but the consulate and the embassy do charge. Well, because you're going to use the facility or their facilities. So that's reasonably expected.
Then I assume it would also be longer rather than if that person is here in the Philippines.
Yes, because there's a timeline for the DFAs and the Philippine consulate and embassies. You have to coordinate with them first, usually a month before the hearing date.
How about all the documents that that person will need to sign?
For the documents, they need to be notarized and apostilled before the Philippine consulate or the Philippine embassy, or at the state where they are currently residing before they can actually send it over to the Philippines, and in order for them to use it before the Philippine courts.
Attorney, merong mga tanong dito. So, sabi niya, attorney, nung kinasal kami, nagtalik kami, syempre. Kaso nga lang nagkaroon ako ng STD. Pwede ko bang ipawalang visa yung kasal?
Okay. It depends. STD could be considered as a ground for annulment of your marriage, but it has to be serious. So, hindi lang yung basta STD ka na pwede naman siyang ma-cure.
Paano yung situations where the woman is already pregnant and she hid that information to her future spouse?
Okay, if the wife did in fact hid her pregnancy from another guy before the marriage, that could be a ground for annulment. But kung alam naman nung kabila na buntis siya, hindi
Okay
yung
na.
ground.
Attorney, simula noong naging mag-BF at GF kami, hanggang ngayon nakasal na kami, hindi pa ka rin kami nagtatalik. Pwede ko na bang hiwalayan?
Well, that could be considered as a impotence,
Okay.
which will be a ground for an annulment. But
Pwedeng hindi din.
Oo.
It depends. I think I remember a Supreme Court case wherein that one guy just wanted to have a lot of fetishes except sexual intercourse.
yeah, that is. I remember the case is for the Chiming Choi. Chiming Choi versus Court of Appeal.
Attorney, nung ikinasal ako, yung asawa ko, buntis na pala. Ang ama ay hindi ako. Anong pwedeng gawin?
So that could be also a ground for annulment. Lalo na kapag hindi mo dinisclose at the time of your marriage, nabuntis ka na pala sa ibang lalaki.
18 po kami noong nagpakasal dahil nabuntis na po ako. Napilitan po kaming ikasal.
That would be also a ground for the annulment of marriage, considering that the parties did not really give their consent at the time of their marriage.
But is there a prescription before they can file?
Yes, it's actually 5 years from the time that the cause of action accrues.
Okay.
From the time na kinasal kayo.
I think our viewers would want to know what happens after their marriage has been dissolved. For example, what happens to the kids, what happens to the properties. So, because that is a very long topic, we can pause right now and then we will have another discussion via another podcast and just tune into that. For now, we are signing off. Bye!